meeting to order. I would like, before we start, to let you know that Commissioner Legg will not be with us this evening. He is actually at work, so he will not be with us. At this time, if you'll all please rise, we'll have invocation led by Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's all bow our heads. Lord Jesus, we come to you tonight to do your will and make you proud and to make our town the best it can be. Give us insight as we listen to our citizens, speak to us, and give us wisdom, and help us all work together as one team to move our town forward for your glory and your benefit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. This evening's meeting is set up strictly for public comment, and that's the reason we're down here closer to you on the floor. We did have a sign-up sheet, and the ones that signed up, we'll call on them. And then if time warrants, or if there's other people who would like to have input, you can direct the questions to the individual board members. And this is a time that'll be conversation. It would be unlike a regular board meeting, so that there will be, of course, if there's things we can't answer, if it's things related to personnel, then those types of things would not be something we could answer in this forum. But this particularly is so that we can gather information and insight into what our public would like. So, starting with that, the first person, if you will come to, it's just like a regular public comment time. Microphone's here, and we're actually not going to time, so that way you won't have to be constrained by the time limit of whatever it is over there, 3 minutes. So there won't be a time frame on it. But the first person that's coming up is Carla Welch.
Hello, Carla Welsh, 3626 Lake Forest Road. Hello, Mayor, Commissioners, staff, and fellow citizens. And I'm glad to see a couple of people that I haven't seen before. It's always the same old crowd. I'm talking about the parish house in general. The first thing I wanted to bring up was an article that I read in Up and Coming. I won't address this to anyone in particular, as I guess we're still not supposed to. But there was a very detailed presentation by my husband at the last meeting of why this parish house is so important to save. We may have gone wrong a couple of times in the past. It appears that there may have been things like Number 4 Mill that was sold to other than public use. Also things like maybe the Rayner's little place on the corner that has so much historic significance. But we can't say 2 wrongs make a right. Let's make 2 wrongs and 1 right makes a right, okay? Let's save this building. It has a lot of historical significance. It can be saved, and according to Mr. Adolphson at the inspection, he has enumerated things that we already knew were wrong with them. The only other things that were wrong are things that some of them were because there was no electricity to have the air conditioning going, therefore no ventilation. All this was addressed by our town manager. Mason also had his summary of it. So we know it's going to cost some money, but we know that there are options to try to fund it. We should, and I'm really anxious to see from our finance director if there's any money left from the original museum allocation. After all that consultation that costs so much money, if there's anything left, we have to, of course, direct it to our little bitty temporary one on Trade Street first, because it's going to have to be our temporary museum until the other one is finished. And it may take a while, but inevitably that should be the museum. That's what we were given it. The town was given that building and the other building, the church, to be used as a museum. That's what we need to do. So anybody can have their opinion. I'm just saying there was so much proof in that presentation that there was historic value and that now we know it can be saved. That I can't see how anyone could think that it's a problem with the other commissioners who have a different agreement. I'd like to read something that was in Town Talk on Wednesday, April the 10th. And this was by our Commissioner Jesse Bellflowers. There was one segment in here about the bulkhead structure that I found very, very interesting. It says, the bulkhead structure addresses the erosion control measures as detailed in the Army Corps of Engineers USACE dam permit dated August the 26th, 2016. It says, if you notice, they're talking about a little bit of erosion. Next thing, also detailed in the USACE permit, it is the requirement to improve the lake park area for community recreational use. This is all quoted. For example, item 17 states, the plan should include detailed improvements to the public use swimming area, piers, docks, and fishing and boat ramp areas, as well as plans for the museum project. So from 2016, as part of what the Army Corps of Engineers said, we're supposed to be having a museum project, and this is all supposed to flow into our Heritage Park, into our lake park, and of course our brand new lake. This is all part of our future, and this is something that it's even written in here. I don't know if any of you noticed it other than Commissioner Bellflowers, but when I saw it, I says, oh my gosh, it says, as well as plans for the museum project. So it's important, okay? Another thing I wanted to bring up is my husband is on the, of course, the Historic Preservation Commission, and he did receive notification from our town manager that they have contacted one of 3 engineers to try to come up with a proposal by the end of next week. I know that you all voted for this. You didn't listen to the fact that Mason, who walked with him the whole time, never heard anybody say that a structural engineer was required for what we were doing. Also, I looked back in the original Amerispec General Home Inspection from 2014. It was actually the end of the year. And I had found this information along with my husband, saying throughout the entire thing, recommend review by qualified contractor, repair by qualified contractor. Never once in this entire home inspection, which of course was done a while ago, and we do have a few things that are different, but there was nothing in here that says that a structural engineer that cost a lot of money, and they're having to get them from other cities to come here, travel time and everything else, just like all the consultants that you all have been hiring, whether they were needed or not. Money out of our pockets, by the way. It said as a summary at the front, we recommend that all repairs be performed by licensed mechanical contractors, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, or prior to the close of escrow. Now, I called Amerispec, it's no longer called that. I spoke to the lady who answered for Arnold McLaurin. I called today, and I explained what had happened, and I said, I don't know why we're going through a much more expensive route through an engineer to tell us that the place is sound. Well, first of all, the only things that, well, she said, first of all, she says, look back at the report. If he feels that it's necessary, based on his inspection, to have an engineer, he will so state And I says, he doesn't anywhere in here. So the only thing that might have been a cause of concern, other than the mold, and that's done through an environmental agency, not through this, and you already had an environmental agency come in prior to the mold, so we'll have to have another one, I understand. But the only other thing would be the joist on the floor, which do have some damage, which was quoted as previous, and this was in his report, previous termite damage. You also had a termite inspection done in 2017, a year and a half ago, and it said no new termites. Okay, no new termites. We don't have to have termite treatment done because there are termites. The only time we would do it is for preventative measures, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we don't have to do it because there's termites. And it doesn't say that anywhere that we have to have this engineer to come in and spend all of our money for something that is not required. Also, there's the lady that I spoke to, and I have her name written down somewhere, Erica, said that, you know, she says, we do this all the time. I said, whenever I was an appraiser and I required an owner to make repairs on a home, and I had to do it quite often because I was with VA. VA and FHA have very, very strict requirements, very strict standards. And our little book that we had to learn basically came down to 4 words: safe, sound, sanitary, and secure. And that's what we looked at in every building. If we found that a floor squeaked, we may say, hey, you know, let's check that out. That may be something we need to check. Doesn't mean you have to have a structural engineer in there. You get a licensed general contractor. This is his specialty. He can go under the house, he can take his little flashlight, he can probe here and there, and then he can do what Mr. Adolphson suggested might be a possibility for taking care of the damaged wood under the building, which was, I'd heard, to sister the boards, sister good boards to the bad boards to bring it up to more structural integrity, or he called it, oh, I forgot what his word was. Same thing, though. You have maybe one area that's damaged, the rest of it's good here and here. You don't take out the whole joist. You just take some good boards and you put some here, you make sure it's good and straight, and it helps to lift the whole thing up and make it secure and structurally sound. So that's what a carpenter would tell you to do. That's what a licensed general contractor would tell you to do. I don't think that this expenditure is necessary, and I don't think it was maybe pointed out as vehemently as I'm trying to do it now, but I think it's a waste of money, unless there's some other reason why you need to do that. Let's see, was there one other item? I know I'm talking a lot, but let's see here. Maybe I've covered the majority of it here. That was my big thing, was the licensed contractor. And I did read to Melissa, where you had on here at Preservation North Carolina that they rescue old houses. I went online, but they don't give you specifics unless you join, I guess. But it was about volunteers preserving it, and that would be very interesting if there was a way to do that with donated monies, if we could still own it and do something like this with preservation monies from elsewhere. It would kind of like be a grant, which we would of course hope to also ask for. But I thank you for your time. I just still can't understand about the.
Can I address one thing?
Yes.
Because I think it's important.
Yes.
It may not be that this entire board knows, but they should.
Yeah.
When we got the permit from Army Corps of Engineers, the previous board and the staff that was working on that,
Right.
it was very important to us to cross every T and dot every I. And one of the things of getting that permit was phase one, phase two, phase three. Phase three is including Heritage Park and the museum. We also, because of knowing that we had a sort of a timeline to get this done, is where the house on Trade Street came into play. Because we knew at that point in time that if there had to be, if we were
Oh,
going
I
to
see.
include a museum, that we had to have an alternative plan. So the plan was there. Phase one basically was getting the dam back and getting the pier up. Phase two would have been the boardwalk and the park itself, Lake Park.
Right.
The parking lot included in that, and the landscaping. And phase three was Heritage Park and the museum. And so those were part, and our Lake Advisory Committee also previewed that, along with, I'm pretty sure Parks and Rec had some input also in that. But just know that those plans, and the intent was for those plans to move forward, and they are in place. So the museum has never been left off. It has always been included.
Right.
And it wasn't a revelation right now. It was something that we had and knew we had to do in order to.
Okay.
The main thing was we were in a situation with wetlands and some other things that we had to come up with some additional recreation. And most people don't
Oh, I see.
understand
Yeah.
that
Okay.
also, when you look at the big scheme of things, and we're spending $10 million for a dam, public use, okay, is the smallest part of the whole recreation plan. The majority of the land around our lake does not belong to the town of Hope Mills. So that's why we had to beef up the plan, and that's where we came up with phase one, phase two, phase three.
That makes sense.
And
That
they
makes
all
sense.
connecting, because you could walk from the lake to Heritage Park to the museum all right here together.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay?
that makes sense.
And anyone else want to comment on, okay, yes ma'am.
Ms. Welch, I know the individual you were talking about in the up and coming was myself. And I'm not saying that it cannot be saved or restored. The board before, I mean, the board, the first year, had voted unanimously to have it restored. Okay, at that time, we stopped anything, so the staff and all of them did not get involved in it because they had no direction to go to. So that's why it's sat there for a year or so without anything being done to it. The only thing that I'm thinking about is that the value of it right now, or even when it's restored, and the amount of money that we're spending, that the taxpayers are involved in it, I just feel that there's so many other things like our police department, fire department, and other issues that we're trying to take care of need to come first.
But this has been on the books for quite some time.
So has the police department, and fire department.
And it's not the value monetarily that we're talking about. It's the historical value.
And so value out of
That's
all
right. So you can't take this all in money and say it won't be, say the repairs are more than 50% of the value. You can't take that monetary figure and say, oh no, we're going to tear it down because it's more money. If we were to sell it, well, who wants it? I mean, nobody's going to buy it because they don't have parking adjacent to it without the other building. It has zero value. If you think about it, who's going to buy it in the situation legally that it's in right now? It has zero value. So whatever money you put into it is going to be more than what it's monetarily worth right now. But it's worth a lot to our town.
Okay, no, if the plan is restored and it becomes a museum, okay, and safety is gonna cost us about 600,000, if not more.
Excuse me? Where did you get that
That's
from?
whatever I got from an engineer. By the time they get
A structural engineer who was also doing the work himself? In other words,
Done in the past, yeah.
yeah, see, that's what you'd never do.
Okay, how much is it gonna cost?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, we just went by a rough
Yeah.
figure, okay? And then once it's restored and you have the museum, how are you recouping all the money that the taxpayers pay?
Hopefully with some tourism to the area, because it's going to be part of the lake project. We're going to have a lake. We're going to have the dam. We're going to have the little park there with a little wheel. We're going to have Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and students going down to study things. They'll have their little field trips and go down to the museum. We're going to have people coming all over the place. Our little downtown there is going to grow. Our historic area will grow. And then we're going to have people coming there, and they'll know then about Hope Mills.
Are you
They don't know
charging?
about us now.
Are they charging?
Well, they can't charge, can they?
That's what I thought. So how-
But they're bringing people to the area to do other things. They're not just going to go to the museum. They're going to make a day out of it.
What I want to know is how are we going to recoup it without raising taxes?
I can answer all those questions when we get to the end.
Okay, cool. Later on.
As we
Oh.
talk right now.
Okay. This is while I'm standing up here, or are you going to talk on your own?
We're gonna
Well, I'm not-
converse
Okay,
one
okay.
on one, I guess.
Got it. Okay.
But, like I was saying, I'm not against it, and I know it's gonna pass, but I'm just one person talking. But I have talked to citizens, and they do not want the taxes raised.
Well, they
And they
won't.
do not feel that it's gonna be, cost effective to have it.
Do you remember that they talked about how we could get fundraisers, and they said that we should be doing that right away? The historic, actually, they're meeting, I think, on Wednesday, and that's probably one of the things they're going to talk about is, and of course you know that because you're our liaison, or his liaison, sorry. And so there's supposed to be fundraising, there's going to be grants that we can apply for. When it gets to a point where they say that people can walk in there safely, which what 40 of us did at once and no floors fell down. But when it gets to the point where it's cleared and they say, hey, people can walk in, Mr. Adolphson told Mason, and I think also told, I don't know if he told the reporter or not, but, because the reporter actually, Mr. Vaughn, did an interview by telephone, and that's how he had his quotes at the end. I asked him, because I said, you weren't there, how'd you get the quotes? And so he told me that he had done a phone interview. I also asked him if he'd ever mentioned anything about having an engineer, by the way, and he said, no, not to me, he didn't. And but, okay, where was I? I was going back to the running, getting the money and everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Yeah, that was the other thing, was to get volunteers to physically pull down things that were safe to pull down, and have volunteers doing, and then also you can do the trade-offs for work being done for something else. There are a lot of ways that money can be raised, and so there shouldn't be money that's coming out of our taxpayers' pockets. It's going to take a while, first of all, to get the grants, because we missed the deadline this year, if I understand it. Yeah, one of them? Okay. But next year is another big one, and so, with the grants coming up, if we get that money, then, I mean, we're not looking at money coming out taxes. Yes?
Most of you read through Parkland, you've seen the train depot. My mother-in-law has, I don't think hardly any college education, but she read the 100-year history of Parkland like Eddie Dees did for Hope Memories. And she also wrote a grant to move that depot to the other side of the tracks for $160,000. And the people in Parkland will tell you their taxes never went up a dime to pay for that depot to be moved. We have to be smarter about these projects. We do have to get grant monies. There's lots of grants available for historical restoration and rehabilitation all day long. We just got to get busy. If I have to form up a grant committee myself, I would. But it's not. Most of us doing narrative and budgeting. I think in their case, I think they started with an engineer. They may have even fired an engineer. I have to check with my mother-in-law, and went with the general contractor. I think what we asked for was an estimate of what a structural engineer might charge.
That's correct.
We have not approved the structural engineer as of yet.
That's
Good.
correct.
We just asked for a price.
Yeah.
It does, I think it may add clout to grant applications to have an engineer sign off, just like, none of us are fans of having these big studies, but that's the world we live in. And with these grant applications, if you don't have certain people, certain clout sign off on these projects, our rating on the grant application drops near the bottom.
Got
instead
it.
of the top.
Okay.
And that's why we do a lot of these things, like we're doing the comprehensive plan that we've never had for our Parks and Rec. I don't think most of us on here realize we didn't have one until we came on in this term. So that's why we decided to move on to the comprehensive Parks and Rec plan. And some of this may be incorporated in there even, the Heritage Park.
Yeah, yeah, well, that
Now,
helps.
Josie and I sat on the Historical Restoration Committee with Ms. Waring, Ms. Hall, Mr. Bradford, Mayor Dees, Lawrence Smith. We raised quite a bit of money with the rubber ducky race.
Oh, yeah,
We had
I remember those.
A concert with Jeff Bates. This might have been before some time. We closed off Main Street and had a great big concert with about, I don't even know, maybe 7,000 people there. It was a crowd. But with the rubber ducky race, we were able to raise money for the historical signs that are downtown that you see today. We've also had Old Mill reunions with this Historical Preservation
right.
Commission. I was just speaking with somebody that worked at Mill Number 4. To bring her next Old Mill reunion this fall. So now this is before my time, but I wasn't aware that Mill Number 4 was sold from the town to the current owner. I thought it came from the Brower family directly
could have.
to the current owner. I don't know that the town ever had title to Mill Number 4.
Oh, no, well,
think it
no,
did.
it don't, no, I think
And
you're
I'm not sure
right.
about the other corner where the Eddie D's building is either, or that might have been years and years ago.
I was trying to think of which two you were talking about.
The building-
That was the one you were talking about.
The building.
And Rayner, okay.
Dr. Rayner is in. we
Right.
sell for about 165,000 back
So it's those two, okay.
in the 80s. And the original fire department's behind the clinic pharmacy there. And that was in the 80s or something.
And our depot's gone, so, torn
I
down.
will tell you that, just to chime in with Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell, is that the key to what happened in Parkton, and my mom was very involved with his, or his mother-in-law, because they're best friends. And the key to it was the fact that you had citizens that took it on as their cause and their mantra, and they did it. Had nothing to do with the elected, it
I'll be
just had
darned.
to do with their true spirit, and they did it on their own. And they continue to protect those types of interests in Parkton, but it
That's
truly
great.
came from citizens that did the rally. And so that's why I think the key to Hope Mills would be.
Me too.
Those things are most important, then those people that are closest to those things could do more than even any elected official could do. 'Cause
I
of
agree.
course they
And that was through the Historical Preservation Foundation. But the depot actually belongs to the town of Parkton.
Yeah. Oh,
So it did have to
darn.
go through the town budget. But the Historical Foundation in Parkton, they did all the operations
Yeah.
of getting it done.
Well, I hope we see our entire town come together on our historical projects as well. I thank you all very much. Did anyone else want to say anything? But you answered the thing about the engineer, and that's been my pet peeve, so that was my big thing. But thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay, the next we have is Joanne Scarola. Did I say that right?
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Joanne Scarola. I live at 5429 Archer Road. I have some notes, so hopefully I don't go off on a tangent. I was just wondering if I could ask each of you, what are your, aside from being on the, Hope Mills Board of Commissioners and Mayor, current jobs or maybe your previous jobs? No, I know you were ex-military and currently a teacher at Fayetteville Tech. Ms. Edwards?
I had 27 years civil service retiree. I had 16 years as director of a senior citizen center for 16 years. I worked part-time with the Pinecrest Funeral Home. And
I know you're a CPA, sir, so
There's a rumor.
There's a
I've been doing it 34 years and a business consultant. I've sat on the boards of about 20 nonprofit organizations.
Okay.
I'm a retired educator. I'm a small business owner. I'm a baby boutique. Also, and part owner of Countryside Furniture. I do the financial books for all those three places, Warner and Son, and have lived in Hope Mills since 1979.
Yes, ma'am.
I was a retail manager and did internal loss prevention for the North Carolina district.
Okay. There's a purpose to the question, so let me get on, back on route. Okay, so first comment. I believe you guys are doing a good job overall. With limited, and I don't want to say this to make it sound bad, but I don't know if Jesse can see the same way. With the military, we have kind of leadership experience and with your limited experience of leading, I think you guys are doing a great job. So let me say that. I'll throw in there a little bit about blue collar versus white collar. When it comes to things with the town, I see a lot of stuff being, I want to say, routed towards white collar people, but I'm retired military, I'm partially disabled, so I'm on a fixed income. I like where the taxes are right now. I originally lived in New York, that's where I grew up, so it's awesome. But when I see stuff like we were talking about the signs, how okay, I get it, when the signs are destroyed you want to try to get all on the same sheet of paper, you want to have a nice thing to look good. I think it's like Hope Mills is trying to turn into Fayetteville a little bit. I see this as a small town. Fayetteville, large town, more money. Hope Mills, not so much money. That's why I live here. I don't want to live in Fayetteville with the expenses and stuff like that. That's why I like Hope Mills. So just something to keep on the back of your heads, how, it's blue collar people. It's a military town, so just throwing that out there. Okay, so I play devil's advocate, so I try to look at things in both ways, good and the bad. And you guys are doing the best you can. There's people that will judge the town saying you guys are not doing enough. But they themselves need to put the money where the mouth is. I volunteer. I volunteer with the CERT team for Hope Mills, and I'm also with the VFW and American Legion. And I have no qualms about volunteering. Like she was speaking about volunteers and stuff like that. That I love it. I enjoy it. I like doing stuff for this town. I wish other people would do it. They're quick to say, well, we need volunteers, we need this. I didn't see anyone out there volunteering when I was helping out. So, this last weekend I was volunteering with the police departments doing the barbecue thing out at the Harris Teeter. And, police chief of Fayetteville out there taking orders. And it was just really awesome, just something to think about. When it comes to the blogs and the newspapers critiquing you guys, again, it's like anything else childish. Take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I remember you bringing it up towards the meeting, you brought it up towards the meeting, and it's like, you shouldn't have to address it because it's childish. If people have to write stuff because they can't say it to your face, then they're scared. I don't even pay it a grain of salt. I mean, seriously. Make sure, where's she at? Oh, she left. Make sure she spells my name right, Joanne Scrolla. Right. So, that's why, but it's true, I mean, you gotta laugh at some stuff sometimes, and I think you guys are just doing the best you can, and that's all we can expect. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Joanne.
Next we have Grilly Mitchell.
Grilly Mitchell, 4056 William Bell Luther Drive. Actually, tonight I thought this was going to be an open forum meeting, that they throw out some questions and we can roll up with that. But overall, I sit down and I look at this town, and we have an amazing town staff. I'm telling you. Personally, I think that Melissa's the best town manager we have ever had. I mean, I used to come here and I used to be so frustrated when I walked out of here sometime. We have a budget that we have to do a better job at managing and maintaining, because if you don't manage your budget will manage you. If you don't manage your town will manage you. Too many times I sat around the staff meetings when I was the boss, installation manager, and they would come in and say, hey, we got to cut your budget. When your budget is cut, guess what? It comes with problems, because now you got to figure out what you got to cut. That means that you got to have a list already in place that you call priorities. And that's something we need to get back to. I don't think it's been a while since we had that priority list and we stuck with it. We have to get back to that list of priorities that we know that will work and do work. First of all, we have to look at those projects that will begin to generate income. We have to begin to generate income for this town, because I was listening to, I think, AFA radio, and somewhere down the line, they are saying that we are looking at the possibility of a mini recession. I see it coming. I pay attention. I watch these things. I'm looking at our government sitting up there on Capitol Hill. Money's got to come from somewhere, and they're going to begin to start cutting some things. Social service projects going to be cut. Funding. Volunteers. It's not that easy in some projects, especially now. Grant funding, I'm telling you now. I look at them all the time, and they are changing the priorities on grants now. This year, it might be shelter the homeless. Next week, it's all about babies. Or next year, I should say. But it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. And you have to be prepared to meet those ever changing going with these grants. And it's like Mike and I can attest, a couple years ago when we was on the grant committee, it was not easy, but we got it. We made it. Mason and I went out and did a lot of knocking on the doors. Hey, we put out the little collection containers to get the funding and stuff, so we made it. But it's not easy work. And we have a lot of good citizens in this town who want to get involved, but we have to motivate them to get involved. We have an event coming up this Friday for the veterans down at the Sunshine Center, and I went around talking to some of the town merchants and trying to get some donations. All right, ask me how many I got. 0, because they said that have already been given out. They've already supporting enough, and this time of year is pretty hard because let's face it, there's a lot of the schools is in session. A lot of schools is asking for help, but it's not that simple, not that easy. We have to also begin to look at the advantages and disadvantages of how we move forward on projects. Jesse can attest to it. In the military, when we brief a commander, we have to show him the advantages and the disadvantages why we should move forward with the project. If one outweighs the other, and we still disagree, we have to go back and look at it again and try to find a way that we can move forward with that project. But we never move forward until we've seen the benefit. This town is a beautiful town, but it can be more beautiful. We have taken the step in the right direction with getting the signs all on the same uniform standard. But now we got to begin to clean up some of these streets. It is horrible. I hate driving down Ellison Street where I live at. Oh my God, that's an ugly place. It really is. And I try to motivate the people to do something about it. They're not going to do anything about it until we begin to hold the owners of the property accountable. And that is not being done. You go by the same house for the last 10 years, for windows, they have pillars stuck in the window. I drove around some of the areas. You see broken down cars in the yard. My neighborhood, they got smart. They leave the tags on. They just flip them around. We can't enforce something like that as long as there's tags on it. But I try my best to enforce those areas in my neighborhood. But we got to begin to do more enforcement to fix these things up. Because if we do not, we will become an ugly town. It don't take much for a town to go down if we don't begin to enforce the policies and procedures that we have in place. Y'all doing a good job in some of those areas. I'm going to give you credit. Give credit where credit is due. When we do right, we must give credit when we're making it going the right way. And most of all, like we were saying before, we got to find a way to get that free money. Free money is out there. It's a lot of hard work. It's not easy to get, but if we work hard, we get the right people, use our subject matter experts, which is your town staff. If you have to find the practice for them, go out and research and analyze. Hey, give them the information, or let them go out there and do the work. But let's take advantage of those free dollars, because it doesn't get any better than that when somebody giving you money to get a job done. Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to comment that we did not sign up? We're, it's just 7:10, and we do have some other people here. If anyone has something you'd like to ask, or something you'd like to say, or even a question you'd like to direct, feel free to come to the microphone at this time. Anything from staff? Anything? No? All right, I'll start. Commissioner Bellflowers, anything that you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to say at this point?
I'd just like to thank all the speakers to take the time to come up here and say something tonight. I do want to address one thing, Carla, back with the structural engineer. I remember reading about it in our manager's report. That's where I got it, the structural engineer part. That's where I saw it. Now, I wasn't present for the inspection from Mr. Dobson, so I don't know. You were down there. I was only going off of what was in the manager's report about the structural engineer. That, and given that the last inspections of that building were done in 13, that's 6 years ago. I think what's probably a question is the integrity of the building at this point. It's the integrity of it. The last inspections were done, Arnold did it, and I have great respect for Arnold. He's performed 3 residential inspections for me, and I would recommend him to anybody, and have recommended him to anybody. So the structural engineer is probably the person that's going to verify the integrity of the building. Because Mayor Pro Tem's right, we can't go after grant money unless we have that building certified that the integrity of it is good. There's a tremendous amount of volunteerism that's looking for opportunity. I've got one that I cannot share right now until the structural engineer looks at that building. But it's a very, very good opportunity. It's a community project. It's a partnership that's probably going to restore the building for hardly nothing. If it works the way I think it's going to work. And that's why the structural engineer. Now, I don't know what the cost is going to be. Like Mayor Pro Tem said, the only thing that we're asking for is a quote of who's it going to be and how much is it going to cost. That's what we were looking at, and then we'll make a decision at that point. Now, back over on the bulkhead project, or the dam project itself. And Mayor, you're right, that in the beginning, we had the project set up in 3 phases. Phase 1, 2, and 3, all in accordance with the core permit. That was the drive. That was gonna save the town a tremendous amount of money in mitigation costs. That was the key piece. Is that the lake has got to be, the lake park has got to be restored to the public, which is what's happened. That was the whole key to it. And that's why I put it in the article that I did, is I wanted to remind and refresh folks that where we are today was basically coming from the core permit that included that one sentence. We have the pier, we have the bulkhead that's going in now, we have a museum that's down Trade Street, a building, and then we have the existing one that's still there. And all of this is in the phases to be completed. Bulkhead started now. And then there's gonna be other amenities that's gonna come into the lake park after the bulkhead project's finished. I was down there last week, Sunday, and I won't go too much longer, Mayor, but I was down there last Sunday, Timmy Gray was down there, and there was a whole bunch of folks that were down there, and you know what? I'm just gonna tell you. They really enjoy the lake park, they enjoy the pier. They're not real happy about what's happening with the bulkhead and the timing, but let me tell you something, they shook my hand and they said, look, all we wanted was somebody to tell us the truth. And that's exactly what I did in Arden. Not only in the Sand Spur, but in the up and coming as well. Just told, and that's all people want. That's all they want. Well, what's the truth about it? What's it gonna look like when it's finished? I had folks down there tell me they'd like to see some more benches down around the pier. That if we have good weather, that maybe the project will be finished. And everybody does have a concern about what I call the cliff. I'm just telling you what people tell me. Maybe, I don't think all of them lie to me. I think folks tell me the truth. And that's what they expect out of us, the board. They look at us to tell them the truth. And that's what we've tried to do, is tell the truth. At least I have. I can speak for anybody else, I guess, but I think that, and that's where we are with that project. Now, with the golf course, it's the same way. I had folks ask me that weekend, if we would consider putting a splash pad in at the golf course since we were closing the lake for most of the summer. Folks asked me that. Would y'all consider doing it? Now, why would folks ask me that? Where's it coming from? It's coming from the citizens in our community who are looking for more recreational opportunities. And that is the strength of our community, is recreational opportunities. It really is. It really is. Joanne was right, so was Greeley. We're a military bedroom town in Fort Bragg. A lot of people retired here, same reason I did. Recreational opportunity. And they're there. And Greeley's right about the grants. There's plenty of grant money there, but we gotta be aggressive to go get it. I asked about that not too long ago, about our own town staff act, pursuing grants. Now I'm gonna shut up, because that's about all I got, unless somebody else got something that you wanna ask me directly. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, I'll ask Commissioner Larson next. You have not had any time for input.
I appreciate everybody coming out, whether you spoke or just came to listen. I have been on record that I am for preserving Parish Hall, and it may take some time, because we'll have to look for grants. We will have to look for fundraising, so I do support that. One of my favorite commissions to volunteer for before I was elected was the Historic Preservation Commission. Fascinating meetings to go to learn some of the history that you just don't realize is here. And it's more than just a building. It's about preserving what started this community. It doesn't have to be done overnight, and it just needs to be done enough so we can stop any more damage from occurring as we move forward looking for grants and other means of money. As for the golf course, this board did not, start the discussion of the golf course. That started in 2017 when they started a master golf course plan, which was before phase 1, 2, and 3 were completed of the lake. So I think that this board has tried to find an alternative recreational space at minimal cost for the community by opening it up, using the existing golf track for walking and the green area for families to enjoy without it costing a lot of money. The bulkhead has to be done. And it's unfortunate, the timing, but really when you pick 3 months, any part of the year, you're either disrupting 4th of July, you're disrupting Christmas, you're disrupting swimming time, or you're in hurricane season. There just really wasn't 3 months anywhere that you can pick that is a guarantee that you're gonna be able to get it done. And so it's unfortunate that the swimming area is gonna be closed. Hopefully it'll get done before, summer's completely over. But if not, then it will have a beautiful bulkhead next year for everyone to enjoy, with steps going down to the swimming area and handicapped accessibility, and there won't be a huge hill, and there'll be swing sets, along the bulkhead, and it will be beautiful. And I think everyone will be very happy, but I appreciate everybody coming out.
Mr. Edwards, you have anything else?
I already said my piece.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, definitely appreciate everybody coming out tonight to be vocal, and it takes a lot of courage to stand at the podium. We've all done it on both sides of this table at different points. I know Commissioner Bellflowers and I used to open up our big mouths quite a bit as citizens back in the day. We wrote blogs ourselves, we wrote articles ourselves. We talked about the golf course long before 2017. I actually did a video about the golf course back in 15. It takes a village, it takes a team effort to get things done. Like Commissioner Larson says, we just want to open it up. It's a very inexpensive thing to do. We were told no twice that we couldn't have an entrance into the golf course. Well, through team effort, we found out we could open it up at very little cost. We were told we couldn't use the parking lot. Through a team effort, we found out we could use the parking lot for free. And we just had to have it lined. And there's more to the story, but we want our citizens to enjoy all those acres over there. It's beautiful. I brought my son up playing golf on that golf course. The whole 18 holes, we own what we call the old front nine. But there's also a fishing pond or two back there on the backside. You know, we have to have these plans for the comprehensive plan to do grants, but we don't have $66 million laying around. We don't even have $6 million laying around. So there's certainly no reason why our citizens can't enjoy the golf course next week, 2 months now, whatever, 1 month from now. We want it to be open Wednesday, I think, was our deadline. And so we're jumping through some more hurdles, hoping to get that open. There's been a lot of talk about wagon wheel, baseball, fields. That's when it gets tough, when you sit up here at the table, because you have friends that are also staff members, and you got other friends that are for wagon wheel. But when we pay $12,000 for a scientific study from our citizens, baseball was at the very bottom of the list. So who do we listen to? The citizens that elected us, or recommendations from staff? You know, it gets tough when you sit up here and you have to make those decisions. And it's a no-win situation, but you have to do the citizens. We are representatives of the citizens. When you pay $12,000, or whatever the exact figure was, for a scientific study by a well-renowned firm that did the parks for Cary, doing the parks for Fayetteville, and they say baseball's at the bottom of the list. Baseball's at the bottom of the list, and that's just the way it is. That's a scientific study. Appreciate the comments by Ms. Joanne Scalera. Ironically, I myself lived on Archer Road for 11 years, right up the street from it. I was a military brat. My father was deceased, but my father retired in 1967. When he died, his pension was $21,000. I have five brothers and sisters. I have 65 nieces and nephews and great-greats. I know about blue collar. Grew up off of Rose Hill Road. Joe's now lived in a small mobile home for 4 years, right off of Crystal Springs Road. We know what it means to earn money off the sweat of your back. And we can definitely appreciate those comments. 60% of my clientele is military. And we pride ourselves on military tax law. the sign ordinance, we felt strongly about that. One of the reasons I made the motion to hire the Bro Law Firm and TC Morphus back in 2012 was because their expertise with Aberdeen and Pinehurst. And I knew that with Aberdeen that they had the lowered signs, and I personally thought they looked good. They helped raise everybody's property values around the area. End of the day, we all want our property values to go up, not down. Since the bubble burst in 2008, you know, we've all been fighting to get our values up. Zillow says they're going up slightly, but we still have not recovered from 2008 from the bubble bursting. So, how do we get our property values up? Better parks and rec with amenities. We don't have a whole lot of money there, but we're working at it. We're trying to get there. So all these things, we appreciate the comments. I was expecting some tougher questions tonight, and I know it's not easy to get up there, but we've been taking it for a long time, for about a year now in the media. And I encourage the media to come up right now and ask questions if you still have unanswered questions, because the media has not called me in 10 months. But they sure don't mind, even this week. I'm in the paper, you know. I don't know what the animosity is, but our town will not move forward until we stop talking junk about each other and start lifting each other up, thanking the good Lord upstairs for what we do have, and acting as one team and one community that cares about each other instead of tearing each other down all the time. That's not how you move Cook Mills forward. You know. It is very difficult when you sit on this side of the table, because you just can't make everybody happy all the time, but you have to do what you believe is the best interest of all citizens. I was really hoping for some questions about Lone Survivor tonight, I'll be honest. I thought it would be some questions about Lone Survivor. So, as you know, I'm the liaison with the Fayetteville Cumberland Economic Development Corporation. I had a meeting with them, with Commissioner Larson in hand, and one of their board of directors said that project never was economic development to start with. But it was a good project, but it was not economic development. Don't get me wrong. And I have raised money myself for Lone Survivor. At the end of the day, I explained that the property was never for sale, but even at arm's length, the last proposal was for $84,000. But they wanted us to pay for phase 2 study, because phase 1, the environmental study indicated there was potential problems with the property. And when we drove down there to the site visit, you see layers of asphalt laying one on top of another. It's obvious there's gonna have to be a cleanup. The study itself cost $15,000 plus. And environmental cleanup, you don't even wanna go there. Environmental cleanup, that's a lose-lose situation. I'm so happy Lone Survivors found a place in Carver's Creek on the north side of Fayetteville. That's my old stomping grounds over there. I went to Pine Forest High School. I went to Methodist College. I think it's a nice area. I think they gotta restore it down, they get a lake back. I think it'll work out for them. But I was really expecting some tougher questions, because I see the tougher criticism of us on the weekly. And I was just disappointed tonight that we didn't have tougher questions. Because
No.
I do have one question. I could have a couple on the on the parish house. Are y'all going to establish a ceiling cap on the monetary amount that you allow the taxpayers to pay?
Well, I hope we diminish any taxpayers having to pay a dime.
Okay.
Rome won't build in a day. Rome won't build in a day, right?
Right. No, this is going to be an enduring project. It's going to take some time.
As you know, we threw together that grant committee on, you know, I was sitting about where you are right now. And Mayor Warner called there and said, hey, Mike Mitchell, he served on a committee before. Would you like to head up this grant committee? And by the way, the grant's due in 60 days or 90 days. So, and that's great. And we did what we had to do. We got corporate sponsors, and corporate sponsors is also an option for the parish house. Because the business around here they like to put their name on things, on bricks, on plaques. They just want a little recognition, you know, for their effort. And that's that's just another way to raise funds. They can count for matching funds for grants. So, just know that we all appreciate you, that this board is not, incompetent in one iota that I can tell. If you look at our voting history, we have voted together almost all the time. We have come together. We have showed little to no doubt in our decisions. So I don't know where we have inexperience in leadership. I don't know where that's coming from. We've all been leadership roles up here. Ms. Pat right here led the Sunshine Center for how many years? 16 years. Okay. Jesse's got a military background. He's in the business school at Fayetteville Tech. Ms. Larson down there heads up human resources for a large company when she's needed. And Mr. Legs had his own construction company, and he's been very involved in Hope Mills Youth Association since the day it started. If you ever want to see my resume, I'd be glad to discuss that with you, but leadership is not a problem for this board that I see. The problem with this is, would you like to recognize, sir?
Sure. I heard the invitation and set you up on
Come on up.
My name is Bill McQueen. I live at 5903 Hunting Ridge Road. A little background is I came purposely to live in this town and to raise my son and grandkids in this town. And early on, right after moving into the town, I came to a board meeting because I wanted to hear what this town was about. And I was sorely disappointed. Some of the same thing, and there's a plethora of information or writings out here. And I came with one distinct reason tonight. This is Hope Mills, North Carolina, not the English Parliament. The vote of no confidence surprised me. I won't guess about what caused it, where it came from. What I would like to challenge this board tonight to do is maybe undo that in the gamemanship of fairness, equality, moving forward and working together with the citizens of this town. I heard some good comments here tonight. I was reading the paper and learning about this event tonight, and I said, it's time to come back and see what the town is now. I have worked with small towns across the nation, and when I kind of quit traveling, it was with this in mind. Wake up in the same bed 2 days in a row, my pillow, my coffee pot, my community. My grandkids hopefully are going to have kids in this town. So I have vested interest now about planning. And seeing some of this put the past, I would like to be a team builder. I offer what I can offer to any of you out here also, to work together, to come together. It really means a lot to me because I don't understand and I don't care to dig and look for names to call. But this vote of no confidence is not Hope Mills. It's not us. And I don't want people to think of it as that. So maybe while we have some news media here tonight, we could put this in the past and revoke whatever it was in the name of whatever it was for whatever reason, and let that be in the past. And I do appreciate your service, each one of you, your service. I won't go down the list of how I know you, but I read, and I do a lot of reading, but I form my own opinions. So thank you again. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak this evening?
And one other thing about the festival committee. I forgot all about that.
They made me the chairman for the festival committee. Last year, when we started the festival committee, I mean, think about what we had out there at the lake. We had an amazing turnout. This year when we met, first thing we talked about was someone was going to have everything, and then we asked about a budget. Guess what? There was no budget. It's impossible to have an event like we had, and we plan on going out trying to raise some money on our own. Thanks to Dr. McCray, she already started. She, I think, brought up the art thing, right? And we went for those dollars with some flexibility. But we cannot have the events that we had last year that brought the community together like it did last year without some type of funding. And we're going to go out, we're going to knock on doors. But we got to have y'all help too to help us make the thing happen. Because as of right now, we got to modify it. We're going to try to shift it to try to be in, I think, in conjunction with Old Mills Day, right? I think something like that. We're going to try to find some way to at least salvage what we can. But we got to have everybody's help to make this work this year. Because if we don't do it, we're going to lose the momentum that we gained last year, and that's what we're trying to lose. We have some co-sponsors, supporters already waiting to support us. But we don't want to lose that because, as you all know, if you lose, somebody else can step in and pick them up, and it's be hard to get them back. So we need y'all support.
On that, really, Town Manager Adams, did we have a budget last year for the festival committee?
No, there wasn't
No,
a
there wasn't
budget.
one.
It was all raised, right?
It was all raised.
There was money raised, and then I believe the town
In the town,
supplemented
yeah.
it, but there wasn't an established budget.
Well, we can include that in the discussions moving forward with the budget workshops to some degree, or?
I don't know where we're going to get it from, but we can talk about it.
We'll work on it.
We can talk about it. Yeah.
I'd just like to say that we have National Day of Prayer on May 2nd, and that will be here at noon. It'll be out in the front of Town Hall. This is something that's really special for Hope Mills in that we do this with our community ministers. I'm very fortunate in that Dr. Kretsu, this will be one of his last duties, but Pastor Mike McGill, who is at Grace Place Church, has stepped up, and he's going to help with the Pastors Association. Most people don't realize in Hope Mills that we do have a Pastors Association, and that they meet regularly, and that they serve a need. They come so that every board meeting we have someone to do the invocation, but they also do the sunrise service, which was a great event this year on Easter Sunday, and then also the National Day of Prayer. The other thing is we also have food truck rodeo that same evening here, another great family event. It was just a gangbuster last time. We had greater turnout than we've ever had. Everyone's looking forward to it, and I did see, and I posted on the mayor's site the map that they provide so people have easier accessibility and know where there's parking. Also remind the board that I have Mayor's Coalition on Friday. It is at Eastover. I'll send you a copy of the agenda once I have it. But those are the things that are happening in Hope Mills. And then most importantly is Cleanup Day on Saturday, the Veterans Day on Friday. The Veterans Day is down at the Old Sunshine Center, VFW, 10630. Is sponsoring it, and this is a great event. We've got flyers out, and it's also been great coverage on social media. But that's on Friday, and then Saturday is town cleanup. It's the shred event. Again, an opportunity for volunteerism that you can come and just, we provide you the cover so that you can be spotted with your orange vest, gloves, bags, and all you gotta do is we go out and we clean up. I had someone share a picture on my mayor's page that brings back good memories on cleanup days, because I make a point of going to all of them. But the irony of it is that that picture is disappearing, because it started out, I had Mayor Deaver and Mayor Pro Tem Gorman and myself and Commissioner Legg. And those, each cleanup time that since I've been here, you would have those people in that picture. But it's important because you know that that's another part of serving. It's going out and doing those things you can to help clean up. So Saturday, we meet up here, and we've always been fortunate enough, I'm hoping this year the same, that they provide lunch after it's over. Is that still going to be the case?
I believe the lunch is going to be served here. That'll be a little bit different, but
So but
And-
the good news is that that's an opportunity. So if you want to come out and volunteer, you can pick a shade street, you can pick a street that, is in your own neighborhood, but the main thing is that we come out and we do a good job of trying to, make Hope Mills look better. If there's not any other things, I appreciate everyone being here this evening.
If I might,
Yes, sir.
please forgive me, I was late this evening. Rod McLean, 5435 Fountain Lane. And I like the opportunity of trying to address you as a board without the town meeting scenario behind it. I heard the gentleman in the back saying that he came to this town and he liked what he saw, and then he listened to the board of commissioners and changed his mind somewhat. If I may, sir, how long have you been here?
125 years, close to 30.
So he's been here a little longer than I have. I've now been here for 20 years. I have been taking part in the BOC activities probably, I would say, for about the last 5 or 6 years. I have got one ordinance through the BOC. Took me 2 years. Ridiculous, to be perfectly honest with you. But it took me 2 years and I got it through. I had to fight every inch of the way. I looked at the article that was published the other day, and apparently I'm one of the affluent white folks. Surprisingly, I'm one of the affluent white folks who've been on 2 committees at one time. And why was I on 2 committees at one time? Well, one, the board gave me permission to be on 2 because we didn't have enough volunteers. Why don't we have enough volunteers? I don't know the answer to that question. But I think it comes back to my favorite little mantra. 16,000 people in Hope Mills. 16,000. 1,200 show up to vote. And let's be perfectly honest, in the last 5 to 10 years, they have voted for names, not people. The same names over and over and over again, because it's the same 1,200 people voting. And I noticed that, or I don't notice, I should say, any press here tonight.
Lisa?
Well, with my, sorry, Lisa. I do beg your pardon, but even our regular guy, Roger Mullins, is not here tonight.
That's his place, that's
Okay. But
Ryan.
this, it is part of your job as a BOC to motivate the 12 or the 1,600 residents to get out and vote. I am glad to see that finally some things did change and some things are changing, and the board is beginning to change from what it used to be to a board that is now starting to look forward instead of looking backwards. And we've had a long, hard problem with boards looking backwards. Hope Mills is a bedroom community. We need to bring in some type of industry or some type of educational. If we could move FTCC and move it over here into Hope Mills, it would definitely benefit everybody. If we could get some other industry or educational type areas into Hope Mills, it would be great. But all we're doing is we're opening up the doors and we are letting developers tell us what to do. It's our town. It's not theirs. It doesn't belong to them. And yet we sit here and let them build houses, build houses. Where the hell are the roads for the houses? They're not there. They haven't been there. We can't change a lot of them because CSX is not going to move the bridge. But we keep on allowing these people to go in, cut down trees, and build houses. What about the schools? Not one of these developers has built a school. We need to say, okay, if you're going to build X number of houses, you need to build X number of classrooms to go along with it. Let's slow these developers down. We do not need any more buildings in Hope Mills. We need to get rid of some of the older ones, and yes, we can change those ones out for newer ones, but let's stop this tremendous drive for a developer to come in and say, I'm going to do this, and you're going to take it. And we bend over backwards trying to let them in. We're starting to stiffen up. I sat here in a BOC meeting the other day. Oh, I'm not sure about all these sign ordinances. You don't want business in Hope Mills. No, we want business in Hope Mills. We want you to follow the rules. You don't make the rules. We do. The citizens do. You, the BOC, make it into an ordinance, and you make those folks toe the line. And we need to make the developers toe the line. They don't come in here and build a housing area, and that's it. We need roads, we need sidewalks, we need school buildings. If a developer is going to put in a house, he has to donate to the rest of it. And it's got to come out of his pocket. Yes, the price of the house will go up because he's not going to lose his profit. He's going to put it on somebody else. But the town will gain by money going into a school or the roads. And I think that's where the board needs to start looking, especially at these developers. And as I said, the big one, please do what you can to get some notice from the rest of these 16,000 non-affluent white folk. Because apparently I'm part of the 1,200. I've voted for the last 10 years. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Ron, I don't think we've had that much residential zoning requests since we've been on the board. It's been mostly commercial.
Just that one mixed use,
We had one
one
this year.
that's large but it's mixed use.
I'm not saying it's necessarily just this board, but people are trying to do it. You've got one sitting up there at Fountain Lane right now. Hasn't yet come through, but it's coming. We all know it is.
Our sign ordinance is good to go now, right?
Yeah,
It's in effect.
yeah, we're,
I just saw Taco
Yeah.
Bell changing out their whole sign today. On top of it. And there, I don't know if it was some intentional damage on Hook Mills Road or not, or the storm, one of the two storms that passed through. But there was, some signs blowing out actually on Main Street and further up past, across from Tommy Bradford there, the left side. I don't know if that's, might not be in the town limits right there. But there's been a couple signs blown out. We just need to make sure.
yeah, they're starting to crack down and get the notices out and give them notifications and, yeah. It's not gonna happen overnight. So, we have limited staff, so, that does that, but we are, several people that aren't planning in development are working to assist. So, we have good, good cooperation between the departments.
Has the
And-
chamber done any notification, about the new sign ordinance?
The chamber's very much aware of it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, any news you can get out there on social
Mhm.
media or whatever, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron, I don't even know that we have 1,200 citizens voting anymore. I think it might be more like 800 or 900. And it's sad, we're gonna have to empower our younger generations to get out and vote, because they're just not voting. The 18 to 25-year-olds just don't vote, and we gotta get them out. Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on them.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, if you just count the number of cars that pass down Hope Mills Road in a day, probably the whole population of Hope Mills. It's sad that we can't get that many, even with early voting. We just have to work together to try to get folks more motivated for that and for beautification.